Beanie, you have said that you see a lot of yourself in Monica. In what ways?
Monica and I are both Jewish girls from LA. We are really cut from the same cloth in our upbringing. We both grew up in West LA, raised Jewish, and doing musical theater at school. So in that way, there was a lot of connective tissue there.
And as you were playing her, I would imagine that this was it was a big undertaking. It was a lot.
It was a
Did
huge
you
undertaking.
empathize with her, sympathize with her? Did you understand her experience and her pain as you were portraying her?
Monica was actually the most deeply dramatic, emotional role I've ever been asked to play. What she had to go through in 1998 and 1999, due largely in part to her treatment under the Office of Independent Counsel, was so raw and emotional and scary and traumatic. And as Beanie, I would get very emotional when I was doing my research, actually, and oftentimes listening to the Linda Tripp, Monica Lewinsky tapes, I would get very emotional because she's someone that I very much care about and want to protect, and I couldn't retroactively protect her from the pain she had to go through in the 90s, but it was my job as the actress portraying Monica to live as deeply in that pain and that trauma as I could in order for the audience to deeply understand what she was going through.
You know, it's so interesting to hear you say that because as I was watching, I was furious. It was infuriating to watch, knowing that if this was this day and age, it would be a totally different situation. She was on the defense rather than people wrapping their arms and supporting her.
Yeah.
For you, was it overwhelming at all or a little daunting to take on such a big undertaking?
Oh, it was incredibly daunting. Monica is a woman that I care about, a woman that texts me and calls me. You know, I think that's a completely unique situation to be playing someone real, someone historical, and someone that you know on a personal level and that you care about. It was truly a responsibility that I took very, very seriously. A few days before we started filming, I told Monica, I'm your bodyguard. I will protect you. I have your back. I will put my body in front of your body and protect you. And I really hope that Monica's trauma and pain and what she had to go through during those years elicits a lot of empathy from those that watch it.
I think it is so beautiful that you all were able to, the two of you were able to connect in that way. Now, you know I'm going to ask you, what were you guys texting about? What was in the details?
Once I was driving during COVID and I barely drove anywhere. Obviously, we're still in a pandemic. And a car drove past me and I turned to my partner and I said, that was Monica. And she looked at me and she was like, oh, Bean, you've been reading about her and playing her every day. I really don't think that was Monica. And I texted her and I was like, were you in this car turning onto this street? She goes, that was me. And I was like, I knew it. And she was wearing sunglasses.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I literally I know that hair. I wear it every day. We just text. What are you wearing to this thing? How are you? What are you up to? You know, just we're friends. And we are kind of like family at this point.
So you still keep in touch?
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. And I imagine that like while you were actually portraying her and you were filming this, that you probably text about like the little things, like making sure you were get certain things right down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, so often people think that I was calling her and asking her these sort of grand emotional questions, but really it was, what nail polish color were you wearing? Did you call your best friend Catherine Kat or Kath or Kathy?
I love it.
These little tiny details that when added up create a much more fuller depiction of a human being than just kind of you want to get those little bitty details as an actor, and Monica was right there for me to ask her. So
it's so rich to hear you talk about it in that way. For you though, as you were portraying her and you got to know her, not just on paper, but then also just through conversation as well, what would you say is the biggest misconception that people have about Monica?
I think everything. I think because Monica was silenced, her deal with the Office of Independent Counsel, her immunity deal, literally she was not allowed to speak during that time. So she was never understood. She was a late night joke. She was a caricature. She was these horrific names that people would call her. She was a portrait of all of these negative things that others wanted to make her into. Her humanity, her truth, her womanhood was never explored. It was never put on display. And so I hope that, Impeachment does that not just for Monica, but for Linda Tripp and Paula Jones as well.
And last question I'll ask you, has your perception changed of certain individuals within this story since you completed filming?
Everyone on set hated me when I would say this, but I was only 4.5, 5 when this happened. So for me, I was in a unique position because I was pretty much a blank slate, as blank of a slate as you could be.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it's history that we were portraying, but I didn't have these embedded thoughts or this deep ideology about what happened that I had to undo. I was really learning it all for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for viewers that are even younger than I am that this be the first time they ever meet Linda, Monica, and Paula versus having to undo misconceptions they might have had.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your portrayal of this. It was really nice to watch.
Thank you for watching. If you want more extra, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll never miss a video.